Hey guys, so today I got a new stereo CarPlay unit I want to install. It comes with a rear camera and a front camera. So this is the key. I want to install this front camera on my bumper so that I could kind of see little tight spaces when I want to do some tight parking. If I could have the front in addition to a backup camera, that would be great. That's the idea. We're going to install this Atoto S8 model. So we'll give it a shot. All right, you see I already have an aftermarket unit on right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and replace it with my new one. But if you have the stock Honda stereo, I'll show you my old clip of how I removed that stereo. All right. Okay, so first what you want to do is you want to pull from the bottom out, okay? So if you get that pry tool, you should be able to use this leverage and pop it out. And from there, you pop it out right there. All right, that's easy. Put that aside. And what's here, let's take a look at what's here. So there should be 4 screws, but whoever installed this only put in 2. So we're going to take out these bolts with a Phillips screwdriver. All right, when you're taking out these screws, just make sure you don't drop it, because that's probably why there's only 2. So kind of hang on to it from the side and pull it out. The person who installed this probably dropped it in here somewhere. So what I do is I like to grab it for the final turns and then pull it out, holding it with my finger like that. Okay. So now we should be able to just take it out. All right, see, that was easy. All right, so now that the stereo's out, what you're gonna need is a wiring harness. So I already have one installed, but it just installs into the port of your stock car stereo, and it'll give you all the wires you need. I'll leave a link in the description for a wiring harness for the Honda Element. If you have a different car, just buy a wiring harness for your car, whatever it's compatible with. And from there, it should be very easy to install the stereo. All right, so let's take a look at what's in the box. So it comes with, looks like screen protectors. That's pretty nice. It comes with a couple of screen protectors. It knows you're going to scratch up your screen a little bit. So there's some screen protectors. And okay, so here's the unit itself. I think it looks pretty good. So what I do like about it is that the volumes are here. It's not a digital, it is a digital volume, but I don't have to touch the screen and then pull up the volume controls. That the volume controls are here, because that's very important. You know, you want to go get the volume high and low pretty fast. Okay, so here's the mounting bracket, back of the car stereo, and this is a 9-inch model. Let's see what else. All right, so it comes with lots of wiring stuff. It looks like a GPS antenna and all the wiring hardware that you need, and some mounting brackets too, some generic mounting brackets if you need some mounting brackets. All right, so let's get it installed on my Honda Element, but the process is going to be the same for just about any car. So I already have the rear camera already hooked up in a previous video. I'll show you the filming of how I did that, but I'm going to do it basically exactly the same way, and then we could swap it with the new camera. It's just it should be a pretty easy swap out with the new camera. Okay, so for the backup camera, I have this camera, and they give you this mount or this tape and some screws. So I think, oops, got it backwards. I think it'll fit great just right there, and I'll be able to put the adhesives, and I'll put in the screws, and that holds it in place. And now I'm gonna use the screws that they gave us to put it in. All right, that should be in really nice and tight. So now I'm going to need to screw these screws right here to tighten it up so it doesn't, you know, wiggle around, and then we'll route this line back. Of course, I'm just guessing at what the perfect angle is. I'll be able to adjust that later if I want. Okay, so now I'm going to need to remove this panel so that I could do the routing in the back, and you're just going to have to take a leap of faith. Sometimes it takes a little bit of nerves to pull these pegs, but there are plastic pegs underneath that hold it all in, and you gotta pop it out. And yes, you might break one. This last part right here might be the difficult part. You have to separate it from these things right here along that. But once you see what it looks like, you know, you could tell how to slide it in. And from there, you can see access is very easy. You will just go from underneath. Okay, so here is where the wire goes to the outside. It goes to this rubber gasket. So we're going to pull out that rubber gasket and we're going to route the line through. You can see it looks like it's rubber lined all the way. So it'll be tough for you to get, you know, your line through the existing one, but we can make a line, a hole. Okay, so if you don't have any kind of metal fishing line, you just use a coat hanger. Okay, so what I did is I fished it in from this side. Okay. So once the line is fished through, you can get to the other side pretty easily. All right, nothing fancy. I'm just going to use a little bit of masking tape. Get this in there, fish it through again. Okay, take out the hanger and you got your line fed through nice and easy. So from this top side, I could either poke a hole through that gasket and route it through, but you know what, I'm just gonna run it around the outside so it looks like this. Hope there's enough light for you to see. It's just going around the edge and right here. Okay, I've never had issues with water over here, so I don't think that's a problem at all. All right, next up is getting this guy into there. So what we want to do is we want to route it through the back, through this tube right here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out this rubber thing right there. Take it out on this side too. Right there. Let's take a closer look. It's just these guys right here. What we're gonna do is gonna weave the line through there, through this guy, through that tube. There's a slot that you just stick your hand in and it accesses the hole pretty easily. So here the line is through. Just weave it through. Connect it to this guy. Okay, got that plugged in. So let's put these guys back. All right, so I have line coming out of here and going in the back side right there. Okay, I'm gonna put some ties to hold this thing in. just the twist ties that came with the packaging. Okay, looks good. Let's get the cover back on. All right, get them all in. So now we have the wires inside the car for us to access the reverse light to control it. All right, next up we need to access the reverse light. Just pull this out. Here you go. You have access to the wires right here. Okay, so I'm going to use this this quick tap connector, and what we're going to do is use the small one. The red one is the smaller one, and what it does is just, you can see it just taps into the wire and gives you an extra wire. All right, so it's this guy's the one we want. This is the reverse light, so let's see what color that is. This is green and black. So it's gonna go in there. So this is on the cover. It's gonna go in there. We're gonna access the wire from the inside, so I don't have to go through any of this. So now that we know what it is, it's this green and black. Let's put everything back. All right, so many years ago when I had my first Element, I did a video on how to remove this side panel. So you could click the link up there to see how to remove this. It's not that bad. It looks bad, but it's not that bad. So remove this panel. You can click that link. All right, so I just need to pry open a little bit. I don't need to take it all off, but you do have to pry it open. So now that we're here, so here's the pin that I unplugged it to the light bulbs, and you can see the colors. And the green black is this one. It's the second from the right. So that I could either tap from this side right here, or I could tap on this side of the plug. So we'll see what's easier for me, and we'll do that. All right, it was too hard for me to get in here and film at the same time, but I found it was easier to get to the back one. The wire is a little bit thicker too. It's a little more robust than the wire on this side. This side's a little bit thinner. So here is my reverse light signal. All right, now going back to that video line with the controller for the backup camera. So these are the two wires you need, and this red one will go to that backup light that I just did, that I tapped into the positive, and this black is ground. So you want to find a solid metal connection. Yeah, the nice thing about the Element is that there's already one right here, so I'm going to just unscrew that and then tap my black line into that. So I tapped into the ground right there, and I connected the power to this side right here. So now I'm going to clean up this wiring, and then I'm going to route the video line and the control line to the front. All right, zip tie them to make them nice and neat. Comes back here, ties up there, goes in there. So now I'm going to take that and route it all the way to the front, put back all this stuff right here. All right, so for the video line, I'm going to route it under here, and that's, of course, before I put the panel back, I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to stuff it underneath this line right here. So I'm just going to route underneath, tuck it away nice and neat, and then come out on this side. Okay, so now I'm going to put these things back. All right, nice and neat, can't see a thing. All right, so now that this wire is through here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck it underneath, wrap it around, route it underneath here, and then I can get to there, which will allow me to pull the wire up there. Okay, so it's too tight for me to show you that, but that's what I'm going to do. Route it underneath and come out up there. Trying to do this with one hand and hold the camera with the other because the tripod won't fit down here, but you get the picture. Just shove it underneath. All right, so I got the coat hanger down so that I can fish that line up. So let's fish it up. All right, nice and easy. So my old setup did not have a front-facing camera, so we're going to need to install this camera and route it through. And it's basically going to be very similar, but we'll mount it to the front and then we'll route it through here so that we could have the video and the power control for the front camera. For the front camera, what I have is I have this license plate bar thing, and what I want to do is I want to mount the camera underneath there. It'll look like that so that I could see what's in front of me, so I could park in tight places, and then we'll just route it through here, through my grill, and then back into the car. So mounting the camera is super easy because it's just adhesive. So I want to make sure I clean it up really good. So that the adhesive sticks well. Just got some alcohol. You can see the dirt that comes off. All right, so now that it's cleaned, I'm just going to put on the adhesive. I'm going to take off the protector there. Push it up. I'm going to route it through here. Just route it through that hole in the top, and now I can get it into my engine bay really easily. But that's the way the camera looks. You can see it's hidden underneath this bar right here. And then I'm going to route this through the engine bay and into my car. What I did was I put some zip ties to hold the wire. It's plugged in. And it's coming out there. So now I can route it into the cabin. And every car is a little bit different. But the Honda Element, there's a little hole underneath the wheel well. You can see I have some wires there already that will give you some cabin access. It's a little tricky, but you'll be able to get in there underneath the driver's seat. And from there, we're going to route it up and out there, just like the backup camera. All right, so now that we fished that front camera line through, we got the front camera and the back camera. So now, with the wiring harness in, everything should be easy. We'll just connect the speakers to the right thing, the control lines and things like that. Let's get started. So the stereo comes with some mounting brackets, two styles of mounting brackets, a flat one and this angled one. The Honda Element has this little thing right here, so we have to use the bracket that came with the car because of this little plastic piece that sticks out. So we're going to use the bracket that the Element came with as our mounting bracket. But if you didn't have that, if you don't have an Element, you have a different car, you might want to use one of these universal brackets. They might do better than the original bracket. It depends, you know, sometimes yes, sometimes no. All right, so we're going to install the mounting brackets, and first you got to put up this plate and screw it onto that plate, just like the direction says. All right, so we're going to use these little screws right here. This guy, put it in that hole, and that hole. All right, so now using one of these bigger screws, I'm going to find some holes that line up right there, and I'm going to put it in right there, and then the whole mount will look like that. Should fit pretty well. All right, I got that mount back in, so now I'm going to mount it back to the car. The mount in. Got two more screws down there, over there. All right, so my eyeballs did not do a good enough job. This frame needs to sit out a little bit further, because you know we want to be able to get to these holes right here. And there's no way I would be able to get to them when it's so flush like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off the mount and then use holes in which this is further out. All right, so that looks better now. These little slots are exposed, and later on that's what we're going to screw into to mount the stereo. So for now, let's hook up all the wires and just follow the diagrams. It's pretty easy. See, if you have passive inputs, use these guys right here, the RCA cables. If you have active inputs, use these guys. And the color will match, you know, the orange stripe, yellow, red, blue, green. For the most part, it's universal. Let's get that in. All right, so here's some radio harness connections for the extra things like the power antenna, which I don't have a power antenna. But, you know, there's a diagram for it. There's an amplifier, which I do have an amplifier, so we'll need to connect that line right there, okay? That'll be the blue line. All right, so there's like a, you know, a 5G antenna. There's a GPS antenna. So, you know, if you want to hook up those things. All right, so the unit has a mic on it, but it also comes with an external mic. If you want to hook up an external mic, you can do that. You know, there's GPS antennas and 5G antennas, some optional things. I'm going to hook up the antennas and I'm just going to stuff it all in the back. But this mic, I'm debating whether I want to hook it up or not. We'll see. Right, so like I said, the colors are pretty much well coordinated with each other. This yellow power line goes with the yellow. So you just take off the wire covering on it. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use just wire nuts. These are just really easy. And they work really well for, you know, low power things like this. That's just really easy. You don't need a crimper or anything. You just connect it like that. It goes on real easy, and you could remove it real easy if you mess something up or you want to redo it. So I'm going to use these wire nuts for all these lines, all the speakers, and all the controls. So let's do that according to the diagram. So some things you don't have to worry about. It looks like this is the SIM card slot and the 4G antenna. I'm not going to use 4G, so I don't need a SIM card. Of course, you know, this is optional if you want to have a SIM card, if you could always want to have data. Okay, so this is the front camera power. I don't want it to be on all the time, so I'm going to connect it to the accessory and the ground. So it's only on when the engine is on. Okay, so for the rear camera power, I'm going to connect it to this pink line. Let's see if it focus. That's the rear camera. So that's control the rear camera. It'll power on the rear camera when you're in backup mode. So this will, because this is tied to that backup light, this will tell the screen to turn on the rear camera, and that's how that works. And that's why we had to hook up the reverse light power to this line right here. I don't have any steering wheel controls, so I didn't connect any of those lines. And this FM antenna, power antenna, I'm going to connect to my amplifier control signal. This will turn on the amplifier. You know, it's meant for the you know, if you had a power antenna, so when you turn on your car, it'll tell you to bring up the power antenna, but it just gives you a high signal here, which turns on the power antenna, and it'll turn on the amplifier just the same. I'm going to do that. There's actually a pin that they have for the power amplifier, but it's on this guy over here, so I'm just gonna connect that one over there just so that all those lines are together, and this one will only have the backup RCA camera input. All right, so all the speakers and all the control lines are hooked up. The only thing that's left is the front and the rear camera RCA input, front and rear camera, and the subwoofer input. So for the subwoofer, it's this whole thing right here, but there's only one guy right there. Okay, so this is the subwoofer right here. So this is my subwoofer line, so I'm going to connect the subwoofer in. Okay, what we also need, okay, for the front camera, I believe it's this line right here, F-CAN video. think, front cam video. So let's plug that one in. Try that. Here's that amplifier turn on line that I told you about that I could have connected here, but I chose to connect the other one over there. I chose to connect the power antenna one, but that's good enough here. And for the backup camera, it's this guy over here. You can see it says rear camera, and we're gonna plug that RCA there. Okay, so now these pins, we're gonna plug them all into the back of the stereo. These guys here, we'll plug them to the back of the stereo, and then we'll try it out, see how well it goes. See these pins right here? We're gonna plug in these pins over here, and the good thing is that, you know, it only fits one thing. You can't plug it in the wrong thing because they just won't fit. Don't forget your antenna, your car antenna. It's this guy right here. Goes right there. And for those other things that I'm not going to use, I'm going to plug them in and just leave them back here. You know, those USB things and stuff that I told you I'm not really going to use. I'm just going to plug them in, and I'm just going to, because I don't want to lose these lines. So if I ever do want to use it one day, it'll still be back here. So now let's put everything back in. Wow, that actually fits really well. I'll clean all that stuff up later. All right, so that's the way it looks. It's really nice and flush. So you can see those little screwdriver holes. Those are the holes that I want to expose. Remember, I had the mount in a little too far. I couldn't get to it. But now I'm gonna just use these little screwdrivers right here and then secure them to those holes right there, and everything should be nice and tight. All right, let's power it up. Okay, looks good. All right, I'm in the garage right now, so not much of a signal. But let's go to the other menus. All right. Let's see, what if I put it in reverse? Okay, there's my reverse camera. I got a bunch of stuff, but we'll test that out. The clarity, I got stuff in the back of my car. All right, I definitely want to turn off that touch sound because that was loud. Okay, so now we could fiddle around with everything else. Okay, you could turn on the built-in external mic. I definitely want to turn that on. All right, so I realized that this stereo, you have to connect the video to this F-can video, and then you could get the front camera here. It doesn't have the F-cam app on it, so you would have to use the DVR app. Okay, so, and then you can record here too if you like, if you use your USB drive. So you'll be able to use it as a dash cam too if you like. Okay, so the angle of this is pretty hard to see, but you go to the side of your stereo and you screw this screw in. There's another screw right there, and after that we can push it in. So after you get both sides in, they should, if you have some pivot, you can kind of pivot it in like that. And that should be good. Everything is nice and tight. We could test out the system. I think it looks really good. It fits really well. It's not covering up the AC vents. That's a good thing. It's not covering up the controls down here. That's also a good thing. There's the way it looks in the back. Okay, so I synced it up with my iPhone. It's this S8 model right there. That's what you want to look for. Sync it up with your Bluetooth. And after that, you can have your CarPlay. All right. Don't remind again. All right. Maybe I need to turn that default volume down. But I can't leave the audio on for too long because I'll get a copyright infringement. But you can hear it is working. You have all your stuff. And of course you're going to have your maps. So that's good. So now let's test out. So if you want to go back to the Android screen, you just push that home button. If you want to look at the front camera, because there's no F-Cam app on this S8 model. I think on the X10 there is, but not on this one. We're gonna go to this DVR, and there it is. Wow, that's a pretty clear picture. That's my messy garage. Zoom in a little bit closer so you can see. That's my messy garage. Yeah, the picture looks pretty good. Pretty good. Let's take a look at the reverse camera. All right, here's the reverse camera. If you were in that front screen, you could see the reverse, and then the front screen moved up there to that little screen over there. Here's the reverse camera. That's the front, and again, you want to just go back to CarPlay, where it'll be most of the time. And yes, of course, the rear camera will work while you're in CarPlay mode. Okay, so for me, I'll be on CarPlay for the most part. This is where I use my maps and my music apps. All right, looks good.